How did 7 billion people come to live under the same rules? 10,000 years ago, there were no cities, no kingdoms, no nations, just small tribes of 20 to 50 people scattered across the earth. Each tribe had their own rules, their own gods, their own way of life. Then something extraordinary happened. People started building permanent settlements. They stopped hunting and started farming. And this simple change led to the most dramatic transformation in human history. Let me explain how a few thousand people became an empire of millions. It started in the Fertile Crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Around 10,000 years ago, humans domesticated wheat and barley. They no longer needed to follow herds across vast distances. They could stay in one place, plant seeds, wait for harvest. This meant more predictable food, more babies, larger populations. But larger populations needed organization. Who gets the best land? Who keeps the harvest? Who makes decisions? For the first time in human history, we needed hierarchies. In ancient Mesopotamia, city-states emerged like Uruk and Ur. The largest contained perhaps 40,000 people living within walls. Imagine 40,000 strangers living together. You don't know most of them. They might steal from you. They might attack you. They might compete for resources. Yet somehow they cooperated. They built canals. They constructed temples. They created an army together. How did this work? The answer is surprisingly simple. They created a shared fiction, a story they all believed in. In Mesopotamia, they believed the king was the representative of the gods. The king was not just a political leader, he was a priest, a judge, a commander. He embodied the will of heaven itself. People obeyed him not because they feared punishment, but because they believed it was right, because they believed in the story. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh was even more than a king. He was a god. His death was believed to threaten the entire cosmos. His resurrection was necessary for the Nile to flood and crops to grow. Millions of Egyptians spent their lives serving this fictional idea, and that gave rise to the pyramids, the most monumental structures the world had ever seen. The Indus Valley civilization, spanning modern-day Pakistan and India, covered an even larger area. It had over 1,000 cities and towns, some housing 40,000 people. What's remarkable is how uniform they were. Bricks were standardized. Streets were organized in grids. Buildings followed similar patterns. This suggests a unified system, a single authority. Yet we found no palaces, no pyramids, no obvious evidence of despotic rulers. How did such a vast civilization maintain order without visible symbols of power? Perhaps through shared religious beliefs, perhaps through merchant networks. We still don't fully understand. But here's what we know. Large civilizations require more than just rules. They require ideas, stories, myths that unite millions of strangers. In Mesopotamia, it was the myth of the divine king. In Egypt, the myth of the pharaoh god. In India, perhaps the myth of cosmic order. These weren't lies, or rather, they were lies everyone believed in. They were cooperative fictions, shared stories that made millions of people act as one. Think about modern nations. Why do Americans obey American laws? Why do Chinese obey Chinese laws? Not because they fear punishment. They could escape to another country, but because they believe in the nation. They believe in the story. They believe they are Americans or Chinese. This is no different from ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. We still live under the power of cooperative fictions. Money is a cooperative fiction. A nation is a cooperative fiction. A corporation is a cooperative fiction. An ideology is a cooperative fiction. These fictions enabled something unprecedented. A single person could rule over millions of strangers. They could coordinate armies, build monuments, create laws that everyone followed. This was impossible in small tribes where everyone knew everyone. A tribal leader had limited power. People could simply leave and join another tribe. But in an empire, escape was nearly impossible. The empire had borders. It had borders guarded by soldiers. It had a bureaucracy that tracked your taxes, your labor, your loyalty. The first true empire was the Akkadian Empire, around 2300 BCE. Sargon of Akkad united Mesopotamian city-states under a single government for the first time. He commanded an army of 5,400 soldiers, a remarkable force for the time. He didn't know each soldier personally. He didn't need to. He just needed to believe the story, that he was the rightful ruler, and they needed to believe it too. When Sargon's empire collapsed after 200 years, it seemed like a failure, but it proved something powerful. Millions of people could be united under one rule. The idea had been planted. It would grow throughout history. By 1750 BCE, Hammurabi created the Babylonian Empire and gave it laws. The Code of Hammurabi was written in stone, visible to everyone. These were not arbitrary rules of a tyrant. They were divine laws from the gods. Rich and poor, free and slave, all answered to the same code. Of course, the code favored the rich, but it created the illusion of universal justice. This illusion was powerful. It made people accept inequality. The Egyptian, Persian, Chinese, and Roman empires all followed this pattern. Create a shared story. Convince millions to believe in it. This belief enables hierarchies. Hierarchies enable armies. Armies enable empires. Empires enabled feats of construction and organization impossible in tribal societies. The Great Wall of China, the Roman roads, the Egyptian temples. These monuments were built by millions coordinating under a single vision. But at what cost? In tribal societies, people were relatively equal. A tribal leader had more prestige, but not vastly more wealth or power. Everyone still hunted. Everyone still gathered. Everyone contributed. But in empires, inequality exploded. Pharaohs ate while peasants starved. Kings lived in palaces, while commoners lived in mud huts. This inequality was justified by the shared story. The pharaoh was a god. He needed luxuries. The peasants were servants of divinity. The king was appointed by heaven. The peasants were born to obey. Yet without these fictions, civilization, as we know it, would not exist. Hospitals, schools, courts of law, universities, all depend on shared beliefs. Your doctor doesn't know you personally, but she treats you because she believes in medicine. Your teacher believes in education. Your judge believes in justice. We are held together by invisible threads of shared imagination. This is the strange paradox of human civilization. Our greatest strength is our ability to create cooperative fictions, our ability to unite millions under a single shared story. This gave us empires, cities, complex societies, but it also gave us slavery, war, oppression. The same ability that enabled cooperation also enabled domination. For thousands of years, this was the only way humans knew how to organize at scale. Empires with hierarchy, rigid beliefs, shared myths. The question for our modern age is this: can we imagine new fictions? Can we unite billions without domination, without inequality? Can we maintain complexity without hierarchies? Ancient humans created myths of divine kings and gods. Medieval humans created myths of religious truth. Modern humans created myths of nations and progress. What myths will our descendants create? Perhaps they will find new ways to cooperate, new stories to believe in. Or perhaps the pattern will repeat, each empire falling to the next. But here's what we know for certain. We are not so different from those ancient Egyptians building pyramids, or those Mesopotamians obeying divine kings. We too live under the power of shared fictions. We too coordinate with strangers based on stories we all believe. We too are willing to sacrifice for something larger than ourselves. The empire has changed, the god-king has changed, the myths have evolved, but the fundamental truth remains the same. Civilization is built on the collective imagination of millions, and that imagination is both our greatest achievement and our greatest vulnerability. Every empire that ever existed eventually fell. The Akkadian Empire fell, the Egyptian Empire fell, the Roman Empire fell. The pattern suggests that no empire is permanent. All are built on stories that eventually lose their power. All are vulnerable to new stories, new visions, new beliefs. This is both terrifying and hopeful. Terrifying because it means our civilization, too, is temporary. Hopeful because it means we are not trapped forever in the current order. When you look at history this way, you realize something profound. You are not constrained by reality. You are constrained by imagination. The buildings around you, the laws you follow, the money in your pocket, all of these exist because billions of people agreed to believe in them. If we stopped believing, they would vanish. This is the true power of human consciousness. We can imagine worlds that don't yet exist, and then we can make those worlds real by acting as if they do. This is what ancient humans discovered when they created the first cities. This is what continues to drive civilization forward. The Fertile Crescent gave birth to civilization. Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley showed us what was possible. But the real revolution was not in farming or architecture. It was in our imagination, our ability to believe in shared fictions. Without that ability, we would still be wandering in small tribes. With it, we conquered the world. The question now is what we will do with that power. What new civilizations will we imagine into existence? What new stories will bind us together? The answer to that question will shape the next 10,000 years, just as the invention of agriculture shaped the last 10,000 years, just as the belief in divine kings shaped the empires of ancient history. We are the authors of our own future, but we are also constrained by the stories we tell ourselves. Understanding this is the first step toward liberation, toward imagining and creating better worlds, toward building civilizations based on cooperation rather than domination, toward writing new chapters in the endless story of human civilization.